Good morning and welcome. We're so happy to have our fabulous team, Joe and Kate, here in the Big Blue Door Clinic. And welcome this morning, Kate Millard, Joe Ling. We're so glad you're, that's hilarious. I just switched your names. Joe Millard and Kate Ling. That's great. You guys are like so woven together. So glad to have you both here. Thanks for coming to play with us.
Wow, thanks for having us. This is really exciting, really exciting. So we talked about running a session that incorporated a little bit of design and a little bit of marketing. And we thought, since we work so closely with the wonderful ladies at Triad and knowing people within their community, we thought we'd set this up like an FAQ. It's like, what are all the marketing and design questions that we get asked? And hopefully the answers in there will help you a little bit, whether it's on branding, design, marketing, and then there'll be a chance for some questions at the end. So we're big fans of paper and chalk and writing things down and scribbling on post-it notes. So we're going a little bit organic, old school with our presentation today. Okay, so we just to introduce ourselves. I'm Joe. I head up the marketing team here at Alchemy Creations. I've worked here for about 3 years now, working with a range of customers and clients across the UK and now internationally as well. And it's an absolute honour to be able to work with so many creative small businesses and working with Kate, lovely Kate.
And so I'm Kate, I'm the Senior Graphic Designer at Alchemy Creations. And again, it's my pleasure to be able to bring people's brands to life and add a little magic to what people do on their own, but we just zhuzh it up a little bit.
Nice. And it's all about brand magic, and Kate is particularly good at pulling this out. So to kick off, we thought we'd answer 7 questions that we get asked quite a bit. There'll be a chance to answer any questions at the end as well. But to kick off, question number 1. Something we get asked a lot. How do I introduce consistency into my marketing? Now, this is a question we get asked all the time, and it's really, really simple. Essentially, it's in how you look as a brand, and it's about how you feel. It's about making sure that you are bringing to life all the brilliant parts of your brand, and really celebrating them with your clients as well. So at Alchemy, whenever we start working with a new client, we always do a brand housekeeping session. And the purpose of this is to not only help us get to know your business, but to allow our clients and businesses to understand exactly what is at the heart of their business, what makes them tick, what's the values that sit at the heart, what is the vision for the brand and the mission, what are the stories that we can bring to life. So we do a really, really big deep dive. And we'd really highly recommend this to anyone who is just reassessing their marketing, is really get back to the heart of what your business means and what you want it to mean as well. And then make sure that you are consistently talking about that day to day. Make sure that you are celebrating with your customers, and so really very clearly that they understand what you're about. From the marketing, from the brand side.
So a way to do that, to be able to be consistent with your brand, is to create a mood board. And it's just a simple act of collecting your favourite pictures, your colours. It could be types, it could be patterns, it could be even testimonials, things people say about you, but put them all into one place and keep referring to them, keep looking at them and edit them all the time, and put it somewhere that you'll see every day when you get up in the morning, that you know that that's what you stand for, what you represent.
We were saying earlier, Kate and I were having a discussion, and we were saying, actually, just as humans, we evolve and we grow and we iterate. You know, Triad, you are so good at talking about that and encouraging people to tap into that. The same is true of your brand as well. It continues to grow, and so sometimes you do need to just take a step back and reassess it and just look at, you know, where perhaps there's elements where you're not being consistent or where it's actually not doing the job that you want it to do.
And a lot of the time, people come to us and say, I have this amazing logo and I've spent time and we've developed it, but what do I do with it now? You've got it, and then you don't quite know what to do with it. And I think the answer to that question, again, is always to be consistent and is to put it into places that are memorable. So you could put it on your desktop, your website. It always has to be on everything that you've got.
On that logo point, it's also really good to get creative with your logo and have a bit of fun. Something we like to do for clients is just introduce a little seasonal tweak, maybe. Perhaps there's a little charming Christmas hat that can sit on top of the logo, or some lovely animation that can really bring your logo to life. Although yes, it should be static and it should be memorable, it can also be fun because it's, you know, it's at the heart of your business. So make sure that it is, you know, really representing you in the way that you want it to.
And think also that you could be a walking billboard. You could literally walk around with your logo on your t-shirt, on a brochure, on your bag. And don't be afraid to do that, because you're a walking billboard and people want to talk to you about these things that you're carrying with.
Love it. So moving on to our third question, brand identity. So what makes for a really strong brand identity? We believe that this is very much about understanding who your customer is first, making sure that you're talking to them, but also about understanding what your customer needs and then how your business can help serve them best. So it's really important to do that in a personable and open way. You are human, people buy from people, and it's really good to make sure that that comes through in all of your marketing, whether that's in an article perhaps, or a piece of PR, or on social media as well. So what we suggest you do is do a lot of research to find out what it is that your target clients or your customers are thinking, what are they feeling, what are their pain points, what do they need, you know, help with or guidance with, and make sure that as a brand you are really clearly stating that you can help them with that, help them on their journey.
And I'd say in this answering this question, that colour is king. As you can see today, that we wear the colours that represent our brand. So I'm in red and white, which is our logo, in black. And it's so important to, once you know your colours, to stick to them and to only have, to keep them a select few. For example, I'd only ask for like 2 or 3. If you think of big companies, perhaps like Cadbury's, the purple, the luxury of the purple, understand what the colour means to people and what you're saying with the colour.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think the other thing on brand identity as well is that testimonials and reputation is really important here as well. So you might have a real view of your business and what it is that you're offering. Make sure that people are repeating that back to you. If they're not, then perhaps there's something that needs to be addressed in your branding or your marketing perhaps. But really, really make time and make use of those testimonials, celebrate them, because actually people want to firstly support you in what you're doing, and then secondly, you know, they'll be really interested. Anyone who needs converting will really be interested in what other people say about you. So that all forms part of your really strong brand identity.
Can I dive in with a follow-up question? Because I think identity is one of these challenges that, you know, it's like, how do you sort of claim this space? And so what I'm hearing is, you've got, you know, your logo, your color, your, you know, your testimonies, your language that you're using. So all of that goes together, right? Is that what you're saying? That all of those pieces go together to sort of claim your space or your platform? Is that kind of how brand identity works?
And I think of it also a bit like it being a person or a place that you're going to invite into. And you only get to make a first impression once. So you want that impression to be whether it be friendly, chic, modern, traditional. Think of it either as a physical person that you can even give them a name and create their attributes, or it could be a place that you could think of that when you're imagining a customer coming, they're going to experience that place. So think about the typography you're using, and the message that comes, the feeling it evokes within you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think be known and be reliable for certain things. So Triad, KK and KC, for example, you are very good at showing up on video all the time. And that consistently over time is really, really helping with your brand identity, because firstly, people love to see you, but secondly, you are there and you're taking the time and you're offering all, you know, this really valuable advice and motivation, and you're doing it in a way that people understand and they wait for. You know, that is all part of that brand identity, strong brand identity. Okay, so moving on to social media, we thought we'd touch on social media a little bit. So you've got your excellent branding, you've got your color palettes, you've got your logos, or perhaps you're reviewing some of those. We get asked all the time, how do we make social media work for us? And there's a few different things to touch on here. The first one, I guess, is it's in the name, it's social media. You have to be social. We're very good at putting out content all the time, but actually it has to go one step further. And what you need to be doing is really creating a community. And so many people are doing this brilliantly. And once people are in their community, they're fostering this trust. But it's a really, really long-term way of engaging with your community. So, you know, it takes time. Instagram is a great example. It takes a lot of time and a lot of nurturing, because you need to take real interest in the people that are following you. So, you know, send someone a message every time they follow your account, for example, and get that interaction going. Because as soon as you've got those privately held conversations going, you're more likely then to convert them, or they'll be more interested to see what you're saying when you put content out there.
And I think about with social media as well, like, don't waste your time having conversations with people that you don't want to do business with, because at the end of the day, that's the point, isn't it? You want to have a conversation with somebody who's interested in you and you're interested in them. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, nice. A really great piece of advice that I follow all the time is to curate your feed. So when you go onto Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook, make sure that the people that you're seeing are filling your cup. You know, make sure that they are inspiring you and supporting you, and that you can support them as well, because it's very easy to get lost in a whirlwind of social media where everyone is doing amazing, shiny things. And actually, it's not about the numbers. It's about really drilling down to your community and really delivering the very best you can. I'd also say on that, really test and learn as well with social media. It's much better to do a few things brilliantly, or, you know, commit to 2 platforms rather than being present absolutely everywhere and then not having the time to actually make those platforms work for you. So yeah, so definitely test and learn, find out where your audience are and use them for research. You know, ask your audience for questions. I know for brands I follow, I really enjoy when they ask me for my opinion, or, you know, which free gift should we be sending out? What color should we be, you know, all of this stuff. It really, really engages people with your brand. And that's what it's about.
And so another question that we often get asked quite a lot is how can we be impactful with a limited budget? And as it is in the moment in the world, that's definitely a relevant question. We'd say be consistent, and as I always say, be creative. There's so many things we can do for free, and you can do collaborations, you could do partnerships, and I think you have to think about what you have. There's a Brazilian saying that says, start where you are and use what you have, and Pele did that amazingly. So I think even with your logo and the information that you have already that you've built up, because you know, businesses, you have all that information there. It's just how you're going to use it, and you can think about that you're talking to new audiences all the time, so you can use what you've already done to a new audience. So don't be afraid to recycle and reuse and to repeat.
Yeah, that's a really good point on collaborations and sharing skill sets as well. It really taps into triad's piece of cake analogy. You know, if there's something that you do really well, do it. And if there's something that you don't do quite so well, then find someone who does, and, you know, trade skills, or, you know, ask for a favor, offer them a favor in return. I think in so much of marketing, you don't necessarily need to have enormous budgets. It's fine for the big corporates. I think when we are passionate entrepreneurs and founders, it's really, really important that we get creative and we find ways to champion and hold up other businesses. And so that's something that we particularly find exciting through social media. Also consider using tools like Help a Reporter Out newsletter to find PRs are always looking for, journalists are always looking for, you know, people who can offer statements or advice on certain topics. Check hashtag journal requests on Twitter and make sure that you're really tapping in, so you can put your hand up, and if a journalist needs your your thoughts or reaction or needs an expert, be that expert and be present for it. You don't always need those enormous budgets. On the limited budget as well, it just taps back into that being really consistent with everything. I think as long as you have got a very, very clear brand, every time you go out there, whether it's on organic social media or whether you pop up on somebody's podcast, if your branding is really, really strong, then with a limited budget, you can still make a really big impact.
And then number 6, so 3 design rules to keep in mind. So again, keep it simple, and don't be afraid to use white spaces, because in our hectic world of scrolling and images, you go to the supermarket, everything's in your face. So don't be afraid to stand back and have some space around your work and your logos and your typography and your posters, etc. Because you're going to stand out that way, and give it time. It gives it room to breathe, we would say as designers. My point number 2 would be size matters. So just as you don't want it to have tiny, tiny little writing that people can't quite read. But you can use that to advantage if you're a company or a brand that you want people to engage, and you want people to lean in and look. You could use that to your advantage. And again, if you're a big brash company that's bold, you could use great big wording and statements for that. And number 3 is try and be distinctive. Easily said than done, I know. But don't be afraid, be bold to be yourself and to say your truth, and to stand for what you are, and to stand out a little bit.
Kate uses a really good analogy on the design side. It's the Coco Chanel quote.
So Coco Chanel says, when you leave the house, always just take one thing off. And that, please, in your designs, do that. Yeah. Just strip it back. More is less. Less is more. More is less.
Yeah. It's also worth just touching on, if you might have a design agency, you might have a freelance designer. If you don't, there are lots of tools out there that can help you create the artwork that you need. I think just remember, consistency is really key. So on Canva, there's lots of brilliant templates that you can use, same with a number of apps that you can use to create this imagery as well. Just make sure you're being consistent and stick to 1 or 2 fonts, ideally your brand fonts. But if budget is an issue, or if you don't have access to that, just be really, really consistent. And yeah, white space, always white space.
And that comes to our final question. Number 7, how to amp up your brand personality.
We love this question. We love this question. One of the brilliant things about working with so many different clients is that we get to really understand how different businesses tick. And it all comes down to a number of things, whether that be the founder of the business, their story, their tone of voice. And there's so many ways that you can go out there and be super distinctive. And you will be doing that already as well. So when it comes to reassessing your brand and making sure everything's aligned, really, really tap into your personality and, how you want to be known. There's a lot of very good brands out there who are colloquial and chatty and super informal. And that really works because they understand their target market. That might not be for you, but that's fine. As long as you're consistent in what you, in how you project your brand, then that's really positive. I also think it's a really nice opportunity as founders to share the voices of those that inspire you as well, because you are human, you sit at the heart of your brand. So make sure that, people that are sharing work that you think is really valuable and engaging, make sure you're sharing that on their behalf as well, because now people start to understand what it is that's making you tick. And same with tone of voice as well. Just make sure your language is always spot on.
And I'd just add that make every touch point feel like a firework. It should be for you, and it should be for your customers. It should be, it represents you. So every single little detail, have a look at it, go around your business, experience it for yourself. So make every touch point a firework, please.
That's such good advice. I love that. So they were 7 of the questions that we get asked a lot, and that was a real whistle-stop tour in a very fast British way. of answering those questions. If you have questions, we'd love to answer them. Similarly, for anyone who has questions after this session, you can drop them below wherever we post this, and you can feel free to ask away. I think the coolest thing about all of this is that getting to the heart of your brand and really making it shine and stand out is super exciting, and it is so valuable that you do that, because you'll just be far more memorable in that way.
Oh, thank you so much. This was really great. I love first of all, love your pull down questions. That's awesome. I'm going to just do a quick share screen so people can see the PDF that you are including.
Right.
So that is here. So it looks like this. And I love you guys always have so many bright colors, and you also create so much white space, and it's a nice combination. So there's Kate and Joe. So we'll include this in wherever in your post somewhere. You'll be able to download this and grab this information as well, this highlight overview. I would love for you guys to talk a little bit about Aunt Norma. Tell me what happened, why you guys did it, what it's done, because I think it's such a great story about refreshing a brand and creating some energy.
Yeah, that's such a great question. We love Norma. So last year, as COVID hit, as a business, we were obviously impacted like everybody else, and everyone was sent home from the office, but we couldn't help thinking that actually we could probably be doing something quite valuable whilst our clients everything was on hold. So as a team, we put our thinking caps on, and we were thinking, right, what we need to do is really encourage people that whatever this new normal looks like, that it's going to be okay, and that we can bring a positive spin to what was happening. So with new normal in mind, we created our figurehead, who is Norma, and she is pop art campaign. She's like our favorite crazy aunt. She sits at the heart of our business, and she appears on all of our marketing as well. And what Norma allowed us to do was just send some marketing out. I mean, we sent out little designed cards that basically said, you know, the new normal is going to be fine, and Norma is here if there's anything you need. So linked to that, we created a load of free resources that people could download from the website. We gave her an email address so people can email her, and they still do consistently as well. And we just wanted her to be like the wise aunt. You can ask her anything and she'll share.
Like, as if you could go and have a cup of tea with her.
Yeah. And the reason that is so important is because as a team, we love to sit down with a cup of tea, and we always encourage people who are passing to come in and meet with us. We love a cup of tea. There's always biscuits. And Norma really upheld that particular value of being personable and inviting. She had those values intrinsically because you wanted to go and sit and have a cup of tea with her. So it's just a really fun, creative way to roll. And actually, she's making a return, Casey. She's coming back for a little bit of new normal.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love it. New Norma. It's funny because we found you guys in August of 2020. And so Norma must have been pretty new at that point. And when we landed on your website, the whole branding around her was so attractive. It was so engaging and interesting and fun. So for us, it was something that pulled us in right away. I could see how you were using it to sort of re-engage your existing clients. But as a new client at that point, we were all just like, whoa, this is so fun. And we just thought, these are people who can get us, right? Get us, get what we're looking for. So I think when we come back to brand identity, you know, that's one of those places where, you know, when you can let your personality shine through like that, then, you know, it's a good reminder about sort of making sure you show up.
Yeah, it should be fun. Life's so short, and you spend, you know, work is a part of your life, and it should be fun. You should be enjoying it.
You bet. You bet.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Casey, because she was a real, it was a quick brainstorm and she appeared. And, you know, some people just come into your life and they're meant to be there. Well, Norma and then Triad was definitely that. So, yeah, that's cool. I think it's also good to just be brave with things like that. We were, as a brand, we were known very much for Paul and Scott, who are our founders and sit at the heart. And because they are the figureheads, actually, for Norma to suddenly appear, anyone that's known us for years and years was suddenly like, wow, who is this? And, you know, and why is she here? And what is she doing? So it was also that added little intrigue.
Right, it's something new. Check this out. Yeah, that's great. So we actually just opened the floor for questions. So I don't know if you have any burning questions for the Fab Joe and Kate, or if you're just coming to soak up the wisdom.
I'm coming to soak up the wisdom, and as conversations continue, I'm sure I'm going to have a question or two.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. I think, Casey, perhaps we can put together a short list of resources as well, things that will be helpful, reports that are useful, templates that that either we've got or that friends we know in this similar space can help with as well. Because when you're a small business, we know it's really hard to get on top of your branding and your marketing all the time. So yeah, I think the other thing that's worth doing is thinking about Kate's mood board idea. It's so good, it's so valuable. We do it here, we do it for small businesses, and actually it's a really nice way to get creative. And just think about, you know, it sort of uncovers bits to your brand that you didn't really know about as well. You know, as you start to pull in different colours, or perhaps you're looking at specific imagery, and it will also help guide you if you want to create a refreshed look for your brand as well.
I love that.
So,
I guess different ways to do that. You could do that either in Pinterest, or you could, my favourite is the collage and cut it out and actually physically stick it and move it around. But Pinterest, those are different places you could do. You can make mood boards.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing it's worth doing is on Instagram, make sure you're saving people's posts and adding them to your saved items. Right. So the little aeroplane icon, if you see a post that is really resonating or something you want to share later down the line, if you click that button, you can then save that into folders in your saved items on Instagram. And it's a really good way to go back. So it could be that there's maybe competitors in your space that you're really interested in, just looking at what they're doing, or perhaps people that inspire, content that you want to share further down the line as well.
You know, I think that's a really good idea, because, you know, whenever we've sort of started this process, or, you know, looked at doing a refresh or anything, the first question we get from people like you lovely ladies is, you know, well, what do you like that's out there? And normally I'm like the deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know. So then I go looking for stuff, but that's not the same as when you just organically resonate with something.
Exactly. That's why Pinterest is such a, well, it can either be a delight or it can be completely overwhelming, depending on which way you look at it. But absolutely. I think also using it to help you plan your content out in advance is really useful. So we touched on social media, you know, and how to make it work for you. We find it really helps to plan that and just have, you know, consistency in mind, but also know what it is that you want to say at any given time. So it could be that week by week, you have one thing, you're showing up for one consistent piece of content. Make sure you're planning that in so that it's not last minute or, you know, quickly put together. I think it's really good to give yourself the headspace to do that. I sometimes find a Sunday morning is quite good for that. Just a cup of coffee and and scribbling down notes. But again, we've got tools that we can recommend. So with Triad, we use Content Cow, which is really great because it means we can plan out the content. Triad, Casey and KK, you can also be popping content in, and then we all get to see it, to sign it off. You can preview the post, you can get analytics from it as well. So there's lots of different tools out there to do that.
Yeah, having it planned out in advance makes a big difference, because normally, you know, you get in there again and you're like deer in the headlights. What should I know I'm supposed to post something, right? Yeah. And then it also allows us to work together so well.
Yeah, exactly. I think the deer in the headlights analogy is really strong, isn't it? I think quite often branding and marketing can feel like a huge elephant in the room, I guess, and actually it's just breaking it down into little stages and taking small actions just to make sure that you're you know, your consistency is there, that you love your logo and your brand look, and you've got your tone of voice right. It can be done in little incremental steps.
Well, I'll tell you this, you guys know this, but I'll tell the wider world. We were very clear when we started Triad that this was not our piece of cake. As Joe mentioned, we have a piece of cake policy. So we only work on things that are our piece of cake. And we knew that none of us were particularly skilled or knowledgeable in marketing. We certainly knew a lot about what we were supposed to do, and particularly around social media and so on. But the actual doing of it and the creation and the consistency and like all of that was, we just knew that wasn't something that we were going to be really awesome at. We had many years of proof of that. And so we went looking, and that's a whole other very cool story of how we found these lovely ladies. But when we started working with Joe and Kate and the rest of the Alchemy team, what we found was not only do you guys, you know, come with your sets of skills and your own piece of cake that is so awesome and such a great fit for us, but you were able to take things that we didn't realize were important and bring them to the surface, and being able to pull some of the themes, right? When you can't read the label when you're inside the jar, right? We're just doing our thing, and you guys go, oh, well, if we pull this and this and this, then we have this, and you guys have all this content, you have all of it, and we're like, oh, look at us, aren't we awesome? And it just being able to have that that third party, knowledgeable third party that actually, you know, A, cares about us, B, is excited about what we're doing, and C, can pull those pieces out of us and together, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. We've never had this kind of relationship before, and we're just, well, you guys know, we got big hearts and rainbows.
That's great. I think you're absolutely right. I think having the opportunity to step out, we do a lot of you know, whether it's a half-hour housekeeping session on Zoom with prospective clients, or maybe someone just needs to tap into some new ideas or some new energy, we have those sessions available because it's so important that you get an extra pair of eyes on your branding. Which actually is a good tip as well. You know, make sure you're asking your friends and your colleagues and your competitors and people who are completely impartial. You know, make sure you're always asking these people, you know, what they think about your brand and your offer and your marketing. Feedback can always, you know, be beneficial. It's always beneficial. Yeah. So yeah, it's good to have an extra pair of eyes.
Fabulous. Well, I'm so thrilled that you guys were here. I love hanging out with you, as you know. I'm so pleased you were able to bring your 7 FAQs and your knowledge and so on to the table. We really, really appreciate it. I know there'll be additional questions. So wherever this is posted, feel free to down below, write in your questions, and Joe and Kate will keep an eye on it and answer anything that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. We're really, really happy. We love a bit of creative chat. Any opportunity for creative chat, really.
Wonderful. Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, ladies. We'll sign off for this clinic, and looking forward to our next connection. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Casey.
Cheerio.
Bye.